You have a lot of Islamophobes out there, quite frankly, who, to be honest, it's almost like they want this to happen, and when it happens, they get really excited.
Frothing at the mouth.
Hoping, okay, my narrative, I can score some points here. He's back on the streets, you know, the criminal Tommy Robinson is back on the streets.
He's got off on the Southport riots. He still hasn't been held accountable for blatantly inciting the Southport riots.
Yeah, exactly,
you know? And he's literally got charged for nothing on that. Literally, people were like, mosques were being attacked, migrant hotels were being attacked. And he was like literally instigating it from his Twitter account from Cyprus or Spain, wherever he was.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to another episode of Muslims Uncensored with me, the world's most famous and beloved convert to Islam, and Roshan Saleh, who's also quite well known in certain circles, at least here in the UK. We are back. It's been a few weeks break, Roshan. Assalamu alaikum. It's good to be back in the hot seat, and there is a lot to discuss. I know I've always told you, I think when I first joined Five Pillars, I was like, just so you know, whenever I take a break, even if it's for a couple of days, the world always explodes into like
it was quite busy when you were away,
or there was like loads of news will break out. I don't know what it is. There's just something about it. Whenever I decide to go away, even during a quiet spell, the world gets hot.
I think we could have done.
Sure what that is, but
I think we could have done amazing episodes while you were away.
Yeah,
there was so much. There was Trump in the Gulf being, you know, bootlicked by those khaleejis, and there was Pakistan, India, and so much more. But
I know.
I was here ready to do it, but
what can I say? My house needed renovating. Priorities.
Loft extension.
Whatever it is I had to do. But it's good to be back, and alhamdulillah, I know you missed me badly, but that's always the case. I can't go away for a lunch break.
I missed having to do your work.
So I'm back. We're back, and inshallah we'll try our best to make the show more consistent. That's something which we've been contending with, but you know,
it is what it is.
We need more support here at Five Pillars.
Yeah, I did get a few complaints, to be honest, even on Twitter and elsewhere, that obviously we're not being consistent enough. But when we're here, we do it, you know. But obviously
we want to be, and obviously we value and respect all of our viewership. But we just don't have the
life
manpower,
gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah, life gets in the way. If we had more support, we might do more shows.
We obviously live in different.
Let's blackmail our subscribers.
We obviously live in different parts of the country as well, so it's kind of it can be a bit difficult sometimes to get into the same studio. But inshallah, I think for the next like 4 or 5 weeks at least, we should have a clear run. Yeah, inshallah. So let's crack on with what everyone's here for, and that is to get our reaction to all the big stories. The big story which has happened here in the UK is obviously the Liverpool car ramming. That was a massive story, and there was a major reaction to it. So basically, a car with what we now know is a 53-year-old white British guy. There's a drug link there as well. He just ploughed through a bunch of Liverpool supporters as they were celebrating. They won the Premier League, Liverpool, right? So that was why they were celebrating, and it was a horrific incident which was captured on camera. I actually can play out a bit here for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. Yeah, so it's a miracle no one died. I think 60 people were taken to hospital, maybe 11 seriously injured, but all of them look like they're going to make a recovery, so alhamdulillah, no one was killed. Yeah, it's a miracle. It was an absolute miracle no one was killed, and hopefully everyone recovers well. But, you know, when an incident like this happens, you have a lot of Islamophobes out there, quite frankly, who, to be honest, it's almost like they want this to happen, and when it happens, they get really excited. Frothing at the mouth, hoping, okay, my narrative, I can score some points here, because if this guy turns out to be some brown guy or some guy with some link to Islamism, I don't know, whatever they're looking for, they can then push their racist right-wing worldview. So when they saw this, they were like, yes, here we go, another lone wolf that we can exploit. And it turned out that actually it was a white British guy that done it, apparently. So we've got the statement here, actually. So this is
from Merseyside Police, a spokesperson who revealed, and I quote, "We can confirm that the man arrested is a 53-year-old white British man from the Liverpool area. Extensive inquiries are ongoing to establish the circumstances leading up to the collision." Now, this statement was released very quickly after the incident took place.
And they also said it wasn't terrorism related.
And they said it wasn't terrorism related, all that type of stuff there. Now, funnily enough, you'd expect that the right would be angry if the police didn't reveal this information quickly. But actually they got angry that they did release it because they revealed the fact that it wouldn't fit their narrative. It was a white guy who was behind it. And loads of people appeared to be really outraged by this online. We've got some examples here. I mean, Julia Hartley-Brewer, a right-wing commentator, she said in a tweet, "The police have given out information about the driver very quickly. We can only wonder why this has been given a prompt response."
These were the same people,
criminal aspects of it.
These were the same people that were complaining when that Axel guy did it in Southport.
Exactly.
They were complaining that not enough information was being given out quickly enough.
Exactly. So they're never happy. They're never satisfied on the right. Whether the police release the details or not, they're always angry. We've got another right-wing viewpoint here. Let's play out a clip from Ben Habib, who used to be associated to Reform UK, and he's definitely a right-wing commentator now. I'm not sure what he's doing exactly.
He's on GB News, isn't he?
He's always on GB News. Let's hear what he had to say. He basically said he couldn't believe that it was a white guy that was responsible for this incident.
Because white people never commit crimes, do they?
Well, it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe that a 53-year-old white man would get in a car and drive it through a crowd in Liverpool. I just find that hard to believe.
No, you're absolutely right. And again, the truth is unfurled. There's all sorts of posts on social media whether how on earth he got down to that street which was closed off.
So basically he doesn't believe the official narrative because the guy's white, and it's like, white people don't do anything
53.
wrong. I want to be white, so I'm going to say white people are only ever good, Mr. Ben Habib. So Ben Habib just won't believe it until they declare that it was a brown guy. Then he'll believe it. Then
I think Joey Barton.
Yes, that's the narrative I want to believe.
Did you see the Joey Barton tweet? You know Joey Barton, the footballer?
Oh, yeah.
I think he deleted it. He said, you have got it, yeah?
No, I don't. I can try and find it.
We can put it over the discussion later and edit it in, inshallah. But I think he basically said, we all know what's going on here, like nudge, nudge, wink, wink. And then when he realized it was a white guy, he deleted it, and Lawrence Fox said something similar.
Oh, Lawrence Fox, I've got that. That was hilarious.
What
So
did he say?
basically, so after the incident first happened, he was heavily implying like, oh, we know exactly what's going on here. And as news broke and it developed, he suddenly just moved on.
What did he say exactly? I did actually reply to him as well.
So here's the development of his feed. So the incident happens.
Yeah.
He goes, "It's appalling. Prayers with the victims." Another car plows into the crowd of people. A crime never heard of just a few short years ago and now very common.
Quite neutral.
Yeah, so quite neutral. Then, obviously, headlines start coming out saying some male done it, some male. So
you cannot despise a low propaganda arm.
So he's attacking the BBC here because they're not releasing the details. They're not releasing. This is like literally as it happened.
Yeah, okay.
So they're saying it's a male, and he's like, we want to know, we want to know.
Next?
Then he goes later on and says, what's coming next is inevitable, as if he knows. Then he goes, please DM me any information you have about the driver.
He clearly,
I want to know. I know it's a brown guy.
He clearly wants this to be a muzzy, right?
Yeah, he's like, I know it's a
Somali
Muslim.
asylum seeker, immigrant.
His white man intuition is telling him,
He's
I
just
know
frothing at
it.
the mouth.
I know it. Give me what I want. Give me what I want.
He's literally being aroused at the moment, isn't he? He's like,
he is, yeah, tell
on
me
the
what I want.
verge.
Tell me what I want to know.
He's on the verge of, you know what?
He's like, give it to me. Give it to me. Then around this time, obviously news broke. There was a white guy, and then lo and behold, no further
No, he did say something. He did say something.
No further mention. Let's see. So has he said anything? Has he said anything? Okay, so maybe in the replies somewhere.
Unless he's deleted it. Let me have a look on my own Twitter.
He said a pop at Dr. Shola. So yeah, he's obviously okay. Well, it was interesting to me. According to his main feed, he seems to have completely lost interest in it after tweeting excessively about it, asking for details. Once he got those details, he's now lost interest in the story because he can't weaponize it. That's what this is all about. It's about, can we, as right-wing Islamophobes who hate immigrants and immigration, can we weaponize anything that's happening for our benefit and to radicalize people into our worldview? And for them, this incident wasn't one of those chances that they wait for. You know, they wait under rocks and they crawl out. I think Tommy Robinson was even tweeting saying, "Oh, it's a suspected terror attack as well." So you know, it's just gutter activists who are crawling out from wherever they reside.
I couldn't find the tweet. Maybe I'm mistaken. But look, what's happened here is that obviously even Muslims, when something like this happens, we hold our breath to a certain extent. Pray it's not a Muslim. Pray it's not a Muslim, because we know the backlash on us if it is some kind of deranged, Muslim that's done it. But the far right desperately wanted, because you know from Southport, the very reason why the police came out with this statement so early is because they're learning the lessons of Southport. Because when Southport happened, basically, they didn't say anything. They allowed misinformation to spread. Everyone was saying this Axel guy, the Southport killer, was a Muslim or an immigrant, an asylum seeker. That led to riots on the streets, outside mosques, so much damage done, etc., etc. So the whole reason why the police said that this guy is a white 53-year-old British guy is because of the far right, which tells you how much power the far right have in this country. You know, back in the day when, obviously I'm a bit older than you, and I remember the BNP days and the National Front days, they were still fairly fringe groups. Right now, the far right have an outsized power over our politics in this country because they have, thanks to Elon Musk, right? Thanks to X, they have a huge platform. So these far right fringe figures have millions of people at their fingertips now. Okay, they can mobilize, thousands, hundreds or more on the streets nowadays, where they couldn't do that before. The far right have so much power. And it's deeply, deeply concerning. So obviously they wanted this guy to be, a Muslim terrorist. He wasn't. When it's emerged that he's a white guy, a lot of them don't believe it, or they're staying quiet, because they're so disappointed. But we know what they really think. We know what GB News wanted. We know what Talk TV wanted. We know what Reform UK wanted. And all the more, Tommy Robinson, Lawrence Fox, we know exactly what they wanted. They didn't get it this time. But what I'm slightly worried about is that, the police, in a way, they've created a situation for themselves here, whereby next time something happens, they're going to have to come out with some information quickly. And God forbid, if it is a Muslim next time, they're going to have to say it. And I tell you what, Britain is one step away from race riots in this country. Massive race riots. That's how volatile the situation is in this country. And that's how powerful the right wing, the far right, are in this country. As I said before, they're not mainstream figures anymore. One man and his dog. They're mainstream. They have TV channels, Talk TV, GB News. They have a political party in Parliament which could form the next government. Or if it's not going to form the next government, it's going to be a very, very powerful force in 4 years' time. It's deeply concerning.
Yeah, absolutely. And Britain has a history. We've seen race riots in the past. People are calling the summer riots
the far right riots.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, they're calling it basically pogroms, anti-Muslim pogroms. Yeah. And it seems like it's a precursor to something bigger, like you say. It's possible, and I think as a community we need to educate ourselves.
Lying now is normal. I think one thing I've noticed about the far right, and there's literally no point in debating them, because they're not interested in the truth. You know. Yes. Whereas other people, we might not like their opinions, but there'll be some kind of logic to their ideology. The far right have no logic, all right? You can debate them till the cows come home. They will always hate Muslims. They will always hate Islam. They are kuffar. They are what the Quran describes as kafirun, deaf, dumb and blind. No matter what you say to them, even if the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave dawah to them, the most, the best of mankind, they would not listen. They are the Quraysh transported to the 21st century. Times, yeah. They will not listen. They just have to be defeated somehow, whatever that means. They have to be defeated. They cannot be reasoned with. They're out of control.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously they're a threat to to society. You know, it is a threat. I mean, just look at it. Massive threat. I mean, Muslims gather for all sorts of things, Eid celebrations or Jummah prayers. Yeah. They never go around engaging in thuggery. But every time Tommy Robinson's crowd gathers, as we've seen from our reporting, the streets run with piss and blood. You know, it's as simple as that. They run.
There's another one on the 3rd of September.
Yes, so let's cover this. Tommy Robinson, the repeat criminal.
When I came out, you know, when I saw him for the first time, I thought, ginger jihadi.
Yeah, exactly. He looks like one, doesn't he? Yeah, he does. But
has he converted to Islam inside?
Yeah, he's back on the streets, you know. The criminal Tommy Robinson is back on the streets.
Why is he wearing that cross, Robert? I mean, this is a guy, I mean, I don't listen to him all the time, but nothing I've ever heard him say about his religion. Paul Golding, all right, and, you know, Jada Franson of old used to go around in Christian crosses all the time, talk about religion and Christ is risen, Christ is king, etc., etc. This guy, I thought he was an atheist. I mean, I guess he's coming from a Catholic background, but I've never seen him wear a cross. The cross now has been hijacked by the far. Our politics has been hijacked by the far right. Yeah. Christianity has been hijacked by the far right. You know, Calvin Robinson, this guy. The cross now is becoming I don't believe he's a Christian. I don't believe he's ever read the Bible. I don't believe he knows anything about Jesus Christ. But now the cross is becoming a symbol of the right wing, the far right, anti-Muslim, crusader, etc., etc. Yeah. Nothing to do with religion anymore.
Yeah, 100%.
Why aren't Christians trying to reclaim their religion back from these fanatics?
It's because it's a defeated force. That's the problem. And I mean, what are we supposed to believe? That this guy represents Christian values? I mean, maybe he does. Who knows? Maybe he does fit in nicely because
crusader Christian values.
Yeah,
maybe.
Who knows? Yeah. You know, who knows? I mean, maybe Christians are happy for idiots like this, but to their own detriment. You know, I mean, Tommy Robinson is a complete dullard. He's a stupid human being and a bit of a time waster as well, and just a convicted criminal. So fine, if you want him to represent your faith, by all means.
Did you see his speech when he came out of court?
Yes, so we watched the speech. So yeah, immediately slandering
Before we get to his speech, I just want to say something. All right, this guy's had his sentence reduced. All right, he got 18 months. I think he's out in 7 months.
Didn't
he had the cushiest number inside. You know, phone calls, visits, gym, painting and decorating, internet. You know, he had the works. The only thing that he was complaining about is solitary confinement, but that was for his own protection because he's going to get his head kicked in if he goes in general population. Absolutely. You know, because of what he said.
Yeah,
all right,
absolutely.
so the prison authorities were protecting him, but he's got out after 7 months after complaining like a little girl. He should do his time like a man. And I'll repeat again: the far right have a mental weakling who's a little girl, big girl's blouse, who couldn't do his time like a man. You know, and complained like a little wuss when he was inside.
Yeah, he is a wuss. He only ever acts tough when he outnumbers like a Muslim woman in the street or something. You know, it's like that's when he's a tough man, or if he's talking on one of his podcasts.
Well, he never goes anywhere on his own. He's always got his thugs with him.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Yeah, or he does a disappearing act after a rally in London where all of his support started thugging about in central London. He did a quick runner. He jumped in a taxi and buggered off when it got hot. So yeah, he's an absolute coward who couldn't handle his time. He got let off early, still whinging like a little baby. Oh, they oppressed me. I'm so sad. You know, and it's a grift. It's a grift. I mean, it's about getting sympathy from his muggish supporters who can't count to 10. Do you know what I mean? That's the types that I saw at his rallies. He is. It's insidious, really, because there are. You know, in every society, there are people who are not that clever, right? You know, for whatever reason, you know, they're just not educated. They don't understand how the world really works. And, you know, they're simple-minded folk, you know, and he is preying on them and filling their heads with this foreign, alien, evil threat. And they're believing it. And, you know, fueled by drink and possibly drugs as well, as I smelt when I attended. There was definitely weed in the air. You know, these people are being radicalized by a hate preacher and an inciter. And then he sits there and goes, no, it's all made up and the state's trying to oppress me. I'm a journalist. I mean, he doesn't even know the journalistic rules of contempt of court. That's why he's in prison to begin with.
Well, he's still repeating what he's doing. He's still repeating his rubbish. I mean, he got out. Well, let's go into his speech. I'll say my bit very briefly because he did a 27-minute speech. And he's coming out with Islamic rape gangs in collaboration with the Labour Party and the counter-terrorism police allowing it to happen. All these fantastical conspiracy theories and rubbish. I mean, I would like to say, I take exception to the notion of Islamic rape gangs. I mean, that's a contradiction in terms on its own, you know? I mean, we all know that some Pakistani men that claim to be Muslim committed crimes, horrific crimes.
Yeah.
And you and me have said many times, give us Sharia law in this country, we'll deal with them.
Yeah.
We'll deal with them far
Once
more
and for
harshly
all.
than Tommy Robinson would ever deal with them.
They won't be
do you know
around.
what I mean?
They won't be around to
you
do
know,
it again. They
Yeah,
won't be around
and
to do it again, let's put it
so
that way.
whatever these criminals did was completely against Islam.
Yes.
So the idea of Islamic rape gangs is just an insult and it's ignorance.
Yeah.
And we all know that the vast majority of child pedos in this country are white, you know, and then they'll come back to you and say, what about proportionality? Well, we don't have access to those figures, quite frankly. And no one can say definitively what is the proportionality. We know that in certain areas of the country where there might be more Muslims, the figures are higher, but that's because there's more Muslims in those areas, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, no one can say anything definitive apart from the fact is that the 95% of pedos in this country are white men. That's a fact. Everything else is up for speculation.
Yeah. Well, he thanked Elon Musk. Interestingly, that was one thing I pointed out in his picked up in his speech as well. So obviously, you know, I want to find out how deeply is that relationship. Is Elon Musk gonna prop him up now and finance him? What's going on behind the
facilitated
scenes?
him.
He's helping
Elon Musk
him.
has given a massive boost to the far right in this country.
Boost. He recognises him. He knows about him. He's supporting him in one way or another. How deep is that relationship going? What's his plans with Tommy Robinson? What's he promised him? Who knows? We'll have to wait.
Do you
and
think
see
he might
how
be
that
financing him as well?
Could be. I mean, he's already interfering in other European countries. He's backing that far-right German party and has been, he spoke at one of their rallies, I think. So Elon Musk is interfering in European politics. You know, he's pushing like really like far-right voices as well. And he's getting involved in Reform UK possibly.
By the way,
as well.
brothers and sisters,
I want to know what's going on.
Dilly Hussain has a podcast with Elon Musk's dad, Errol Musk, that'll be coming. I won't give away too many spoilers. I know a few things. But
great.
in the next few weeks, that'll be dropping.
Yeah, I saw that video of him. There was a guy doing a bit of dawah as well that he released to his dad. So I wonder what's going on there and if that will lead anywhere, inshallah. That'd be freaking hilarious if he managed to get his dad to convert to Islam or whatever. But yeah, the only other thing I'll say on this is that, you know, I think these right-wingers, again, they always talk about how weak the justice system is in this country, the weak prison systems, because they want to see, I don't know, foreigners or Muslims that are detained and put away, given harsher treatment. But I think that on this issue, I think they're absolutely right. I mean, I would have liked to have seen someone like Tommy Robinson given hard time, you know?
Chain gang.
Yeah, I think he should have been given hard labour and any lip with a cat and nine tails, you know. That's what we need. We need harsher justice system in this country. There's no doubt about it. So on this, I will say yes, because just look at him. He's in fine condition, and he's had a whale of a time, as you've
Are you
said
saying
already.
he should have had, like, been in a block with communal showers and lots of soap bars?
You know,
is that what you're trying to say?
I think I just agree on this issue. There's some common ground here. The justice system should have been harsher. Capital punishment should be a lot harsher for criminals. For criminals,
All right,
yeah,
right,
absolutely.
yeah.
Tommy Robinson is in that.
Well,
camp, isn't he?
he's
a
got off
criminal.
on the Southport riots. He still hasn't been held accountable for blatantly inciting the Southport riots.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And he's literally got charged for nothing on that. Literally, people were like, mosques were being attacked, migrant hotels were being attacked. And he was like literally instigating it from his Twitter account from Cyprus or Spain, wherever he was.
I mean, look, he goes in to jail all the time for various offences, comes out, does them again, or does a different crime. So this is a repeat offender who is not being deterred by the system. And I think if we implemented some proper harsh punishments for people like him, then yeah, he probably wouldn't come out and reoffend. You know what I mean? He would be a lot more careful about what he says and does if he has to go in there and face the lash.
Well, he also caved. We must say that basically he's agreed not to do his contempt of thought. That's the reason why I was released, because he agreed not to break the contempt of court rules on this Syrian refugee who won that court case against him. He's not going to libel him anymore. But to my mind, I mean, you watched the video as me. He basically said the documentary which I produced, which is full of lies about that Syrian refugee, it's all true. Loads of people have watched it. Hooray!
And you can still watch
that in
it on
itself
X.
is contempt of court.
Yeah, it's insane.
He needs to be. He's going to be bogged down. I think he's got some more charges in the weeks to come.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
He needs to be back in prison as soon as possible, off the streets, Tommy Robinson.
Yeah.
Don't want to hear from him, want to see him in jail.
Well,
throw away the key.
Yeah, absolutely. There is
communal showers, loads of soap bars.
and a cat and nine tails. That's what I say. We need to bring that back in. Back in the day, when men were men, that was one of the punishments that existed, was the cat and nine tails in British prisons. I think we should bring that back. Don't know why they got rid of it.
What is that?
It's a whip with multiple whips. It's a short one. And you swing it.
You're advocating the torture of Tommy Robinson in jails?
No, I don't think it's torture. I think just punishment for a serious
public
crime.
flogging. There used to be public flogging in this country, right?
Back in the day, in the medieval, the good old days.
I think there are certain people that deserve public flogging.
I mean, look,
he'd be one of them.
Yeah, I mean, look,
under the law, of course.
They say it's inhumane and whatever, but I mean, it's a deterrent. Is he really going to come out and incite? If he gets a proper punishment, it's a proper deterrent. That's what I'm advocating for. A justice system where criminals don't repeat because they don't want to go back in there. Do you know what I mean? And if it has to be a cat and nine tails or whatever else, hard labor, whacking some rocks for 8 hours a day, every day of the week. I want to empower the state.
No, but what I think is the real punishment for him. What I was trying to
punish criminals. That's what I'm advocating for.
What I want to say about Tommy Robinson is I think what a worse punishment for him would be was take him off the internet. And deny him a voice so he cannot have access to any internet, anything whatsoever. That is what is really going to be punishment for him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind people speaking. I think they should speak, but as long as, because then they expose themselves, don't they? Like, we know Tommy Robinson incited the some riots because we heard what he said. Do you know what I mean? For some reason, the state missed it, but it went viral online. We keep resharing it. But we need a punishment that fits the crime. You want to mouth off and incite and break down this social cohesion of this country. Okay, go in and smash a rock for 5 years.
I notice we haven't got this on the list of things to talk about, but you must have seen the Lucy Connolly stuff. She's the new poster girl of the far right,
yeah,
right?
Bits and pieces. So she tweeted blatant incitement, and she's been jailed for it, and everyone's crying about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've been a little bit away from the news the last few weeks.
Yeah.
GB News, especially, I think Talk TV as well, they have literally, and Reform UK and others, people like Isabel Oakeshott and Julia Fartley-Growler, Hartley Brewer, they have made Lucy Connolly their poster girl. And what they're trying to say, I mean, this is a woman that basically called for migrant hotels to be burnt down while they were being attacked.
Yeah.
Okay? And it wasn't a theoretical thing. While they were being attacked, her tweet was seen by hundreds of thousands of people, and she quite rightly got nicked for it and a 3-year sentence. Now, if I had called for white people to be basically attacked and lynched while they were being attacked and lynched, I'd expect a jail sentence as well. But for some reason, this has really exposed the far right in this country. And, so-called mainstream channels like, GB News and Talk TV. Why are this is crazy. They're using this blatant riot inciter as a poster girl and a victim. She's not a victim. It's literally banged to rights.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. They're saying, oh, she's a poor mother and she didn't really mean it. And it was just a bit of silly words that she didn't really mean. No, man, she was inciting riots while riots were taking place. Yeah,
so this is a tweet. Mass deportations now. Set fire to all the effing hotels full of the bastards, for all I care. While you're at it, take the treacherous government and politicians with them. I feel physically sick. If that makes me racist, so be it.
Does she sound like a victim to you?
No, I mean, she's inciting against...
Do you feel sorry for her?
I mean, it's insane. I mean, if she's a mother and she's calling for the murder of human beings... I mean, I question whether she should even be allowed to have children.
I think she's some kind of teacher as well. She has access to kids.
She's calling for politicians to get burned, and I know that's a sensitive thing here because there has been politicians attacked. So under normal circumstances, politicians, even the right-wingers, all rally around. Like, for example, Nigel Farage gets milkshakes chucked at him, and they're all upset about that. This woman's calling for them to be chucked on a bonfire of burning human beings. And they're like, no, she didn't mean it.
She was on the other foot. You and me say something. You and me say something along those lines against white people or Jews or Hindus. Obviously, we're not ever going to say that. But if we did, they'd throw away the key, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
They would throw away the key.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, It's in writing. I just can't believe it. I think it's about defending their right to say whatever they want. But obviously it's two-tier policing, isn't it? They want a two-tier system which works in their favour.
Well, they already
That's
have
what
one.
want.
I mean, they go on about. I've said
They
this
argue
before
that we
millions of
have
times.
one, Muslims or whatever.
I've just got two things that you can Google, brothers and sisters, and tell all your white friends about these. When the right wing talk about two-tier policing, Google Schedule 7, okay, and Stop and Search. Those two things, all right? Basically, two things that the police do which are proportionately discriminatory against black people and Muslims. And this happens to thousands and thousands of people every year. It's not a one-off case or an exception. It's literally the rule. So whatever a right-wing white guy or whatever throws this two-tier policing in your face, say, yes, it exists, but it exists to the detriment of Muslims and ethnic minorities.
I'm tweeting about it. Lucy Connolly is a criminal and should be in prison. That one is a good one. Right. Well, we want to talk about something whilst we're talking about the right wing and the influence of the far right here in British politics. A lot of politicians are pandering to the far right now, and they're sort of engaging in
the MP for Tel Aviv. MP for Tel Aviv North, Robert Jenrick.
Yeah, exactly.
This guy, you're talking about foreign influence. Like people tell me to go back to where I come from or whatever. I mean, this guy is literally a walking Israeli regime press release.
It's
and
crazy,
he's probably going to be Conservative Party leader before long.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, he's definitely jumping on it. And because the Conservative Party is in a state of disarray, they're collapsing. Possibly they might even be destroyed, if they lose to Reform in the next general election. The future of the party is in doubt. So he obviously is an opportunist, a career politician. He sees where the wind is going, and he's now really jumping on board.
I think he is a nasty piece of work, always has been. His wife's Israeli. His kids, I think, are being brought up as Jewish. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but his loyalty lies with Israel. He's an Israel first guy, and I question his loyalty over this country. I think if you had to choose between Israel and the UK, he'd choose Israel.
Yeah,
that's my personal opinion.
It's definitely a national security threat, especially when you see how Israel treats its so-called allies, spying and interference and all that stuff. So, but what's happened recently is a very popular Islamic dawah activist and a Shaykh Uthman.
He's been on Blood Brothers.
Who's been on Blood Brothers. We know him well, and obviously he's very, very famous on YouTube and elsewhere on social media. He had his visa revoked by the Home Secretary after a right-wing campaign against him online, which Robert Jenrick had jumped on. He personally lobbied the Home Secretary, and he was banned and is banned from appearing in the UK after a tour was announced. Now, a lot of the accounts that were attacking Shaykh Uthman online were having a go at him over his views on LGBT stuff, his views on Palestine, and just the
what
fact,
was what were the
Muslim.
accusations exactly? Do we know? What did Jenrick say? Do we have what Jenrick said?
Yeah, we do. So let's bring up Jenrick. So originally, Jenrick shared a post by a pro-Israel account, Habibi, which everyone in the UK
slavery
knows.
In Islam.
So they said that he supports sex slavery in Islam. He's a big enthusiast for chopping off hands, making fun of gay men, and he backs Hamas. So obviously there's a lot of allegations there. But when I read right-wing articles about it, what they focused on was the sex slave stuff. So he said some comment previously basically saying, it exists in Islam, so what? That's basically what he was saying. And that was the main thing that went viral.
I don't think he would have said sex slavery, but obviously the concept of milk yamin,
exactly.
What your right hand possesses.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously that existed in Islam.
Exactly.
I'm not saying it exists now or even should exist now, but it is existing now. It was an Islamic practice. It is condoned. It's in the Quran basically. So it's part of our religion. No need to be ashamed about it, but we can explain it. Obviously, it's not sex slavery. It's not slavery of any kind, because when people think of slavery, they think of Western transatlantic slave trade. Nothing to do with that. But anyway, you can Google it yourself what it's all about.
Yeah. So this is a well-answered point that is often brought up by people who are ignorant about Islam, what it really believes, and they question, obviously. And this was one of the things that was brought up. However, Robert Jenrick jumps on it. He says that he shouldn't be allowed here. And then, of course, Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, revokes his visa and Robert Jenrick celebrates it. Now, Shaykh Uthman has published a response which we shared on 5 Pillars.
Yeah.
And he basically rebukes the allegations against him and really hits back nicely against Robert Jenrick. I'll play a little bit out now and give you a chance to hear what he said.
Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil. Allah is sufficient for us and the best disposer of affairs. As you may have seen recently, some of the far right, such as Robert Jenrick and the Telegraph and other tabloids and some other fake news sites have called for me to be banned from entering the United Kingdom. Why? And I quote that they say that I should not be allowed to set foot in the United Kingdom because I sow hate and disunity, when that's an absolute lie. I'm all about peace and love. I come to the United Kingdom to bring a message of peace, a message that should take the youth off the streets and into the places of worship, to educate them, to leave the street life and be productive citizens of the United Kingdom. We come with nothing but peace and love, harboring nothing but harmony. So why am I called a hate preacher by Mr. Robert Jenrick? He said that because I quoted scripture, meaning when I am asked about homosexuality and I quote biblical scriptures, Leviticus in the Old Testament, Romans in the New Testament, that Christians and Jews live by, that answer is considered hate speech, then that would mean every preacher and rabbi in your country is guilty of hate speech. When I'm asked a question and I answer it with the Quran and the rulings of the Quran, then if I'm called a hate preacher, that means every Muslim believes in hate? No, sir. It is you who is guilty of hate. It is you who knows in your conscience that you are the one promoting hate, so you reflect that upon me, not even knowing who I am. Wasn't it you, Mr. Jenrick, that in August 2024 said that people shouting Allahu Akbar should, and I quote, immediately be arrested? Immediately arrested for what? Saying God is great? You wouldn't say that about hallelujah or somebody praising God, but when somebody says Allahu Akbar, Allah is great, they should immediately be arrested? Wasn't it Mr. Michael Gove from your conservative party that said the IDF should be awarded a Nobel Peace Prize for those carrying out a genocide, killing children in Gaza? That is hate, sir. If you didn't realize this, when you welcome Modi, the Prime Minister of India, who had been banned from the US because of his role in the genocide and the riots in Gujarat that caused the death of thousands of innocent people, that man who had been banned in the United States, when you welcome him with a red carpet, why is he allowed to set foot on British soil? When you welcome Netanyahu, somebody who's been convicted by the International Criminal Court of war crimes, who quotes those scriptures while carrying out a genocide in Gaza, you invite him with a red carpet.
So Shaykh Uthman was basically saying, you are the hate preacher, you are the problem, not me bringing a message about Islam, which is a religion of peace and justice. Yeah. And obviously Shaykh Uthman as well, very briefly, I'll mention his story. Everyone will know his story because he's spoken about it many times. He's actually a success story and proof that Islam is a force for good on the world stage, because he came from a criminal background.
Oh, really?
He joined a gang when he was younger. He was in the life in America where, you know, the guns, drugs and all that type of stuff. Is he Canadian or
American?
He's in the States, left the life, and now he spends a lot of his time doing dawah to people, youngsters, who would be drawn into a life of crime and drugs and whatever, and he's actually trying to save them, and there's many success stories in that. So he's actually someone who should be here in Britain helping us deal with our youth crime problem, but instead, for some politicized reasons, by a pro-Israel compromised MP with questionable loyalties to this country, he's now been banned. And the Labour Party, of course, have fallen into that.
Yeah, I think two things I want to say is that it is clear now that the Labour Party are really scared that they're going to lose the next election. I mean, they won the last one with a massive majority, a whooping landslide, but already they feel that, you know, they're going to be a one-term government. And that's why they're suddenly going on about immigration, about the small boats and all this, and you know, banning, and literally Robert Jenrick clicks his finger Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, bans the guy within a day or two, you know? So the Labour Party are veering towards the right now because they can see the way the wind is blowing. As far as Shaykh Uthman is concerned, I mean, look, he's just an Orthodox Muslim. And yeah, let's be honest about it, Robert. We believe certain things which would be considered illiberal, you know, according to the liberal elite in British society. No doubt about that, even unpalatable. But all religions follow that. You know, all religions believe homosexuality is a sin. All religions, to one extent or another, have concepts which are antithetical to modern liberal democracy. What are we going to do? Are we going to ban all that? Because you'll be banning millions of people. You know, you'll be banning. Where would freedom of speech be? You know, it's crazy. Obviously, you know, in a secular, multicultural society, the goal is for people of different beliefs to live together in peace, you know, while still maintaining their beliefs, but obviously censoring themselves to a certain extent in the public sphere so as not to incite violence. That's literally the social contract. And all grown-ups understand this in a multicultural society. But idiots like, you know, Robert Jenrick, who I still say his loyalty lies with Israel first rather than the United Kingdom. And if he ever makes it to 9-10, in my opinion, he would be Israel's agent in number 10, basically, which I believe is a national security threat. Yeah, you know, and you know, basically he is now got Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, on a dog leash.
Yeah, it's insane, isn't it? It's absolutely insane. Well, what can you say? Britain doesn't like Islam, it seems, and they're banning people for talking about it. And they claim as if they're warriors for free speech, a lot of these right-wingers. Well, Robert Jenrick certainly is not. Well, solidarity to the Sheikh. Obviously, we have spoken about this story, and we wish him all the best. But it's like he puts his trust in Allah. Allah is the most powerful, the most magnificent. I don't think he really cares about the UK government and all these stupid, you know, I think like most Muslims, he would be willing to go to jail if he had to for his beliefs.
I know, you know, I would just encourage.
He comes across as an honourable man to me.
I mean,
so.
Robert Jenrick and Yvette Cooper have just made him more famous. I mean, he's already quite famous.
Yeah.
And, you know, the youth, I would say, in this country, I mean, you know, the fact is, Robert, that, you know, people like Shaykh Uthman, they can speak to the youth. I think Dilly's like this as well. He can speak to the youth. Yes. You know, old fuddy-duddy like me, you know, probably like 80-year-old men might find what I say interesting. But, you know, it's like Shaykh Uthman and Dilly, they speak the street language, right?
Yeah.
And that's what the youth are going to listen to. So I encourage, you know, our young brothers and sisters to check out Shaykh Uthman online if you haven't already.
It's this type of activism which is helping Islam to spread as rapidly as it is all across the West. So inshallah, we wish him all the best and pray for him. And yeah, we're here if he needs any support. Well, let's move on to this story. This is one worth talking about. Again, I kind of missed this because I wasn't in action at the time, but a Turkish pilgrim in Mecca said that she was stopped from entering the haram because she was wearing a Palestinian bandana. I'll play out a little clip now just so you get a reaction of what she had to experience.
Girerken gördüğünüz gibi şu an içerideyim. Kapının önünde bir tane bayan polis başındaki Filistin bandanasını bana çıkarttırmak istedi. Ben çıkarmak istemeyince polis çağırdı. Ondan sonra bir tane tercüman geldi, sağ olsun yardımcı oldu. Bandanayla beni içeriye bırakmadılar. Kimliğime baktılar. Ondan sonra işte vizemi istediler. Dedim ki bunu niye takamıyoruz? Burası diyor sadece ibadet yeri, burada siyaset yapılmaz. Çok acı bir manzaradır bu. Burası İslam'ın doğduğu yerdir ve bugün dünyada İslam'ın namusunu koruyan Gazze'nin bir bandanasını bile.
So yeah, I think it's part of a trend, isn't it? This is not the first
We've seen
time
it many times.
Yeah,
Totally. I mean, some people are doubting what she was saying, but the fact is, we know that this has happened many times. The Saudis they ban. What they would say in their defense is that the haram is a place for ibadah, for worship only, not for political statements, etc., etc. I mean, I personally don't buy that because we're going through a genocide. I mean, generally speaking, I think that should be the case. You know, if they allowed political symbols into the haram, it'll be a free-for-all and it would be crazy. However, at the moment, we are going through such an extreme case of slaughter, massacre, baby killing and genocide that I think exceptions can be made. And I think the Saudi authorities, to stop such a sincere act of solidarity with the Palestinian people at this moment is insensitive to an unbelievable extent.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously I think, again, the Saudis would argue that they are doing some stuff. I mean, I've seen some clips of prayers for Gaza.
A bit of charity.
A bit of charity.
That's nothing to them.
Political lobbying and statements go whirling around condemning Israel and whatnot. But it's just not enough. Again, the Saudis are...
It's not enough.
You know, they have big things to say about themselves. They are ultimately the custodians of the holy site, and they are based where Islam originates from. You know, so it's a big title to have, and you've got to wield it responsibly. And in a situation like this where there are innocent Muslims being slaughtered, fellow Arabs as well, I think everyone looking at Saudi Arabia, no one's satisfied with how
I always say that Saudi Arabia could finish this genocide tomorrow by launching economic warfare on Israel, because they wield such economic clout that they could do it, you know, and not a shot would have to be fired, you know, against Israel, but they are choosing not to do it. And all these, you know, pitiful, measly words of condemnation of Israel's actions, all this charitable giving. I mean, you know, if Saudi Arabia gave $1 billion to Palestine, that would be like you and me giving 10 quid. You know, that's how much money they have. It's nothing for them. It's absolutely nothing.
Yes.
So I don't buy this stuff. But this is a nice segue into this, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of economic leverage, Trump has engaged in a tour recently of the Arabian Peninsula region, and basically made some major deals. I think trillions and trillions of dollars worth of deals were signed with the Qataris, the Saudis, the UAE, and all that type of stuff there. And it caused quite a big thing online. I know that there was different types of angles taken. So everyone was focusing about the deals. Everyone was focusing about how the Arab world had basically abandoned Palestine and was giving loads of rewards basically to the US, even though the genocide's still ongoing. A major announcement was achieved. Trump announced that sanctions on Syria have been lifted now. So Syria is obviously being welcomed back into the fold. At what cost? Who knows? But obviously I think this was part of the reason why the Arabs were throwing so much money at him, maybe, to sort him out with a deal on Syria as well as other things. But I think ultimately everyone was looking on with just like, how can you reward the West? How can you reward a man who thinks of Gaza like it should be turned into some Trumpian resort, whilst innocent people are continuing to be slaughtered? So it's a massive sense of betrayal, I think. And the Palestinians looking at this, I think they've just completely washed their hands. I've seen Palestinians basically say, we don't even want to be described as Arabs anymore. Just don't call me an Arab. I don't want anything to do with the Arab world anymore. Just call me Palestinian or whatever, because they just feel so deeply abandoned and betrayed by people who say we are, you know, like proper Arabs or whatever. So, there was a lot to take from it. I mean, what was your reaction to it?
Well, I mean, the reason, brother, I know this happened a week or so back or even more. The reason why we're covering it is because we haven't been around for a few weeks, and I think it's too important not to mention. It's sickening, Robert. It's absolutely, I felt sick to the stomach the way that they were kissing the backside of this guy who is literally supporting Israel to the hilt, financially, militarily, politically, during a genocide, during the massacring of our brothers and sisters in Gaza. And these illegitimate khaleeji dictators with more money than they have sense are rewarding Donald Trump for killing our Palestinian brothers and sisters. That's what it's all about. They're literally kissing his backside, kissing his feet. It's disgusting. Where is the dignity? Where is the izzah that we have as Muslims? It was completely absent. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE. I mean, really, I felt sick to the stomach watching it.
Yeah, there is a different angle that's going around. I'm not sure how legit it is, but basically, as we know, like the Iranian approach to Israel-Palestine is to the resistance axis.
Yes.
They support Hamas, so armed struggle and all that type of stuff, funneling in weapons into Gaza and all that type of stuff. That's their strategy. And it's not really paying off. They took some major hits and they're backpedaling now. Israel's kind of given them a bit of a bloody nose. The Saudi Arab approach has always been they would argue, we're lobbying, we're using diplomacy to get what we want.
They're normalising, that's what they're doing.
And normalising as well, yes, absolutely. Yeah. But they would argue that's how we're going to get a result a Palestinian state. That's their argument.
Yeah.
I'm being devil's advocate here.
Yes,
but they would say we're lobbying with the West. The West's our partner. We have to do a deal, we have to work, we have to build economic ties, we have to lobby. That's their approach. Now, They are saying that they're lobbying Trump, and maybe Trump and Netanyahu's relationship is breaking down. Netanyahu might have annoyed Trump. The Arabs are throwing loads of money at him, so they're trying to get him to sort of, like, for example, he announced he might recognize a Palestinian state, and he's pushing for that. He relieved all sanctions on Syria, so the Arabs now have Syria entering into the fold. So they've now got a new player in the region who might become a significant one in the future. So people are trying to say that maybe Trump is annoyed with Netanyahu. Netanyahu's being politically isolated. The relationship there is breaking down a bit. What do you make of that? Do you think that there is any
a load of bullshit? Yeah, what you just said, that was just 3 minutes non-stop bullshit, basically. And everyone should, I know you're playing devil's advocate and those aren't your opinions. But everyone should, basically that is a press release from the UAE government. You know, they will make all these kind of excuses for treachery. So they're trying to excuse treacheries. That's how they do it. The fact is that they have achieved nothing. And even if a Palestinian state was achieved now, what kind of Palestinian state would it be? It wouldn't be a state. It would be a toilet. It would be a toilet which is controlled by Israel, militarily, economically, politically, in every single way. So they ain't going to achieve anything apart from the loss of Palestine. Now, I know that the armed struggle route over the last year and a half hasn't worked either. You could argue that it has delegitimized Zionism in the eyes of the world. So long term, you could argue that it may well work because it's literally exposed the ugly face of Israel to everybody around the whole world. And Zionism now is in crisis. It is synonymous with genocide and baby murdering, and even in the eyes of people that formerly supported it or were neutral. And long term, that's got to have some kind of effect, and...
but do you think that this strategy might
making friends with...
Do you think that this strategy might keep the Israelis out of Gaza, for example? Do you think it might stop them from conquering Gaza?
Well, they're in Gaza now, full time, right? They have no intention of leaving. And
it's pressure for a deal, though, isn't it? It's pressure for a deal. So the Israelis...
What kind of deal? You mean a ceasefire deal? No, I think Hamas not releasing the hostages is pressure for a ceasefire deal, and that's what the only way that Israel has got any of those hostages released was through ceasefires, not through military action.
Because, like, say for example, because Israel could be argued just wants this war. They want to genocide Gaza. They want to conquer Gaza.
They do.
So they're not actually interested in releasing the hostages. That's just all talk.
Yeah, Netanyahu isn't.
They want to. Yeah, he just wants to go in there and annihilate Gaza.
Because he's in jail if he's out of power.
Yeah, and the hostages are his excuse to do that. Now, if the Arab khaleejis can convince Trump to move on that and to ditch that and to say, no, get out of Gaza, we've got to do a deal. Maybe that's a way of stopping Netanyahu's total genocide. That's what they're arguing.
Robert, it's about what they're proposing is surrender, And I think the Palestinians have concluded, or a lot of them have concluded, that they would rather die than surrender.
Yes.
So it's what you choose. All right, are you basically a cheese-eating surrender monkey? And you have no honor in yourself and no belief in God and Islam, and you want to live as the slave of the Zionists, then fine, go down the khaleeji route and sell out for money, sell out for dunya. But that's not the Islamic mindset. We are an Islamic channel here, right? So if we were a secular channel focused on dunya, then maybe the khaleejis have got it right. But we're not. We're an Islamic channel. We promote the Islamic mindset. And the Islamic mindset is not surrendering to murdering barbaric Zionists.
Yes, well, I think you've responded to that really well. Let me just ask you about this, because this went viral. Even our coverage of it went absolutely viral. And we actually got condemned by some UAE voices for this. We were named as, troublesome British Muslims.
Of course they do.
We were branded.
I'm sure they're already launching a campaign against us.
Yeah, absolutely. There was they have some propaganda voices on Twitter and stuff, and they were really having a go at Five Pillars and whatnot over our coverage of this. But yeah, so this was Trump entering the UAE. And as is always the case, there's like a cultural Arab welcome. They wave swords and dance around and do all sorts of stuff. Now, on this occasion, when he arrived at the UAE, the hair dancing khaleeji dance was used.
I don't even want to look at it.
I think it's the first time that I've ever seen this used as a state welcome visit thing. And it caused an absolute stir online. Everyone was weighing in. Arabs were condemning it. Muslims around the world were condemning it. and the UAE was trying to defend it. And I think even normal people looking at this, non-Muslims I saw, were just like, what is this? Like, they just started mocking and ridiculing it because they just didn't know what the heck was going on. Yeah, it just caused an absolute stir online.
The UAE is saying that these weren't women, they were young girls, like underaged, pre-puberty girls.
Yes, absolutely. And I have to say that it is a thing. They didn't just make it up. So the hair dance does exist in the region, but it's never been used in this way.
It's not done, has it been, is it? I don't know, but I don't think it's done publicly, right? It's done in a female setting, like at weddings. So it's not done for men's entertainment, right?
Yeah, so basically, look, this hair dance exists. It's a thing that has existed for a long time.
Yeah.
It's a cultural thing, okay? So it's not Islamic. It's an Arab cultural practice. And when women gather together, normally to celebrate a wedding, they'll get the bride in a woman's only space among family, among friends. Yeah. And obviously, women, when they hang out, they take off their hijabs, they'll dance and share dates and have fun. It's a thing where women will have fun. And obviously, as we know in Islam, women are not obliged to wear the hijab until they reach a certain age. So young girls won't wear hijab until they reach that age. So it's normal. You go to an Arab world and you'll see kids walking around without hijab on, for example. But never, ever, and I've spoken to a lot of Arabs about this, would this have ever traditionally occurred? Girls of any age dancing for a stranger, a man that's not mahram.
Would you let your daughter do it?
No way.
Of course not. None of us would.
The thing is, I even would go as far as to say that no self-respecting Arab man, a khaleeji type, would ever allow it. So this
they would literally pimp out their
appalling.
daughters. They have no honor. The leaders, I honestly believe they would pimp out their own daughters.
This is where I would say that, like, for example, the king, the emir, whatever he is, he wouldn't have his daughters do this. Because again,
I think he would.
I don't. No way.
I think he would. I think
there's no way that.
Honestly, I think he would. I think they have no morals whatsoever.
There is. I know where you're coming from, but there is no way, factually speaking. I know we don't like these people, but like, for example, I'll give you a proper example. Whenever a princess, one of these random princesses, they have like 1 million prince and princesses, don't they? Whenever a daughter of the royal goes a bit cuckoo and goes abroad and starts acting up, they use state resources to kidnap them, and they bring them back and put them under house arrest, basically.
Yes.
Now, the reason they do that is because of the shame and humiliation. One of their daughters is acting up. That's what that is. And to be honest with you, a lot of Arab men in the Arab world actually don't condemn the UAE or these countries for doing that. They actually think that's a man being a man. He's taking care of his women. And when they act a bit Western, and a bit dodgy, and they go abroad and start getting tattoos and start condemning Islam, whatever, they bring them back, put them under house arrest and give them a quiet life. From an Arab perspective, he's doing the right thing. So, no, in my opinion, the Arab proper leaders would never allow their daughters to do that because it's shameful. But they're expecting poorer, I suspect, Arab families to give up their daughters to do this. So my accusation is that they are paying and manipulating and abusing poorer families, paying them money to use their daughters in a shameful, embarrassing display where they are literally spitting in the face of their cultural ancestry by using it in this way. And I say this not because I am an Arab or anything, but because I just know. I just speak to Arabs and that's what they're telling me. So this is a disgrace, it's a shame, it's a humiliation, and it's cringy and pathetic for various reasons. But that's the angle I take from it. If it's so good, Mr. UAE leaders, why don't you let your daughters do it? Would you let them do it? You're not? There's a problem with it then, isn't there? And a lot of voices, like there's a sister here who is a UAE propaganda voice, basically, an activist based there of Arab ancestry. She went viral for defending it, saying it's part of our culture.
I don't know why they do this.
She basically said that it's just online Muslim Brotherhood trolls.
The UAE have they literally have the worst Twitter commentators. The most pro-Zionist,
they're insane,
anti-Muslim, like insane propaganda. And obviously the UAE is a place where nothing is allowed to be said without the ruler's permission. So obviously these people have been given permission to talk openly. And they're worse than the Zionists in their propaganda in terms of being pro-Israel, anti-Palestinian, anti-Islam to a major extent as well. It just shows you what the UAE is.
Yeah, well, she actually was a bit of a hypocrite. I don't know if I'll be able to find it here because it's probably it's like a week ago. But she started criticising the UK, saying it's a mess because we have Muslim activism here and Islamists. That's what she was coming out saying. And then because she said England or Britain is a joke, it's a disgrace, it's a mess. That's what this lady tweeted. A bunch of English racists who saw a woman in a hijab criticising England started attacking her, and she was actually trying to push their viewpoint, and they attacked her saying, well, why don't you go back to where you came from, you bloody foreigner? So totally humiliated and total hypocrites, and yeah, they just don't know whether they're coming or going. But yeah, that's my take on it. A lot of people have been condemning it, saying you shouldn't have women with their hair out.
The reaction from Muslims was
been
overwhelmingly
outraged.
negative.
Yeah, Muslims are
What's the next story, Robert?
Couldn't be more outraged. There is the Syria sanctions. I guess we did discuss that a bit.
I don't think we actually have had a Muslims Uncensored since it was announced that the UK and the US, not just the UK, have lifted sanctions on Syria. I think it's worth saying a few things. I mean, my views on this are very concerned because obviously the noise coming out of Syria or pro government Syrian voices is that the people are happy. Sanctions have been lifted. Alhamdulillah, we have a chance to rebuild our country, etc., etc. And that was the messaging coming out of Al Jazeera and the majority of the coverage I saw on the pro-Muslim channels. However, it's only half of the story because there's no such thing as a free lunch, Robert. And we know very well that there's going to be a price for these sanctions being lifted. And that price, for me, it's clear, is going to be the normalization of relationships with Syria. Now, I've spoken to many pro-Ahmed al-Shara Syrians, and they all are preparing for the day when that happens. They're all saying that, privately they're saying, that sanctions, that relations between Syria and Israel will be normalized, and they're already getting their excuses in. And their excuses are that we're not in a situation to fight Israel. We can't fight. We're a destroyed country. What we're going to do is we're going to play 4D chess here. We're going to outmaneuver the West. We're going to outmaneuver Israel. We're going to normalize, have that breathing space to rebuild our country, and then one day we're going to take the fight to Israel. Now, I think this is complete wishful thinking and nonsense. You know, once you're in that orbit, you don't come out of that orbit. You know, once they've got you by the balls, the squeeze gets tighter and tighter and tighter.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Plus
I'm extremely concerned about the West would not have lifted these sanctions out of the goodness of their heart. They're lifting these sanctions because either it's already been agreed or they expect at some point in the near future that Syria will be in the Western orbit. This is a strategic win for Israel. I do think, by the way, that Israel have mixed feelings about Ahmed al-Shara. They see him still as a jihadi and they don't trust him completely. So I'm not sure whether this is Donald Trump getting ahead of the Israelis or it's been done in conjunction with the Israelis. I have a feeling that it's a little bit of both. But I think it's obviously a strategic victory for the Israelis that Syria has come out of the resistance axis orbit and is now firmly within the Western orbit. And but at the same time, the Israelis, I hate to use an Islamic analogy when talking about the Israelis, but the Israelis are kind of tying their camel, if you know what I mean. So at the same time as they're allowing this westernization process to go ahead and normalization process with the West and Syria to go ahead, they're also making sure that Syria is militarily destroyed and that they are occupying Syrian land so that if Syria in the future decides that they want to pick a fight with Israel, they can't do it. So I think that only half of the story is being told here, and ultimately, we are a channel that is loyal to our viewers and loyal to our ummah, and therefore we should tell the whole story.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we're keeping a close eye on it. But the thing is, I know that the anti-Syria types, the Basharists, Assadists, whatever they call them, I mean, they're peddling a lot of BS right now as well. So we're just kind of, I mean, me personally, I'm just kind of waiting to see what the facts are. There's a lot of hearsay. It doesn't look good. But yeah, there's a lot of fake stuff that goes around all the time.
I do think
so
that
I'm waiting for confirmation before like going in.
There's one thing I would say. I mean,
it.
I'm willing to stick my neck out. There's one thing I would say, because I think if Syria does normalize with Israel, first of all, it's a red line. It's an act of unforgivable treachery. Okay, but also, in a way, I think it's worse than the secular Arab rulers normalizing with Israel, because we know that the secular Arab rulers are, in their minds, they're Zionists, they're Muslim Zionists.
Yeah.
In their minds, they're pro-West.
Yes.
They don't really believe in Islam. I don't even believe they're proper Muslims. I can't see in their hearts, but they're very deficient Muslims in their thinking, their ideology, and their practice. Whereas these HTS guys claim to be, well, I believe they are believing and practicing Muslims. So in a way, it's much worse for believing and practicing Muslims to be normalizing with the Zionist genocidal entity.
That's a really good
than
point.
with the secularists.
It's a really good point, you know, yeah.
And they're going to drag the name of Sunni Islam through the mud.
Yeah.
Because the Shia have constantly said, and their propaganda is, that I'm not talking about all the Shia, but a lot of Shia suspect that Sunni Muslims are traitors. You know, whereas we are the ones that are the inheritors of Salah ad-Din, etc., fighting Israel. And a lot of them are saying, Sunni Muslims, you've always been traitors. And if Ahmed al-Shara does this, then he's going to be giving credence to their arguments.
That's a really good point. It would set a really dangerous and bad precedent, wouldn't it? Because, yeah, like you said, I can't think of any religious Muslim leader or group or organization, like a proper religious organization of any type, getting on board with the Zionist project.
It would be like the Muslim Brotherhood normalizing with Israel.
Yes.
You know, a Muslim group. I'm not saying the Muslim Brotherhood is the same as HTS or anything like that, but you know, it's it's deeply troubling. And I think obviously Syrians might be happy because maybe they'll have a bit of, you know, breathing space. But I think the Ummah needs to look at this in the whole, you know, not in part, and that's what it's our job to do, is to inform people about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're definitely keeping a close eye on it, and we will, we're going to report on it. Whatever the fact is, we're going to put it out there. This is an interesting story. Yeah, I think so. Maybe one or two left. So obviously, this is, again, a couple of days old. Donald Trump has appointed Shaykh Hamza Yusuf as a religious advisor, one of two, I think, Muslim appointments. I didn't recognize the other gentleman, but Hamza Yusuf obviously is internationally famous. Obviously, you know, this is a guy who is very liked by some. He has a major following.
He has his cult following.
He has his following, but there's a lot of criticism on him in recent times for a variety of reasons, and now this is the latest controversy, you could say, that is added to his name. What's your reaction to this, Roshan?
I think Hamza Yusuf is someone that I benefited from in the early days. I mean, I when I was in my early 20s, Hamza Yusuf, who then probably was in his early 30s or mid 30s, he did a tour of the UK. And he was the most firebrand speaker. He was talking about Dajjal. He was talking about Freemasons. He was so anti-Western in his rhetoric. And he was such an inspiration to me. And when I did my first Hajj, I listened to his seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it benefited me spiritually, amazingly. So how far the mighty have fallen, because he's been such, as he's got older, he's got more establishment. His politics stinks, quite frankly, from appearing, you know, not alongside George Bush, but in the same auditorium in the House of Congress, I think it was, when George Bush was giving his war on terror speeches, and to questions which have denigrated the Palestinian cause, to his involvement with the UAE through his mentor and teacher, Sheikh bin Baya. His politics stinks, quite frankly. And I think this is the second time that Donald Trump has appointed him to some kind of position. And his groupies will always defend him because it's a cult now. Hamza Yusuf, he's got a cult following. No matter what he does, he could do the worst thing imaginable, they'll still defend him. Stop defending him, brothers and sisters. You don't need to defend him anymore. At a time when the Palestinians are being massacred, this guy is basically, you know, allying himself through his teacher with the UAE, who are the greatest snake within the House of Islam at the moment, you know, the greatest Muslim Zionists. and also by association with Donald Trump, who literally wants to see the Palestinians exterminated and expelled. It's unforgivable. Unforgivable.
There is, I actually tweeted ahead of this show asking people what their reaction was
What are people
to the story. Someone here says Tony Blair's team did the same 20 years ago in the UK with Tariq Ramadan. Emirati Sheikh, who does not represent Muslims properly. And there's someone did actually say that he is a proper scholar and hopefully he's going to be a calming influence.
They always say that.
Yeah, he's going to guide Trump.
They always have this. I mean, he is a proper scholar as far as I know. But you know, this is always the argument that's trotted out, is that we have to have some kind of engagement within the circles of power. Otherwise, they won't listen to anything that we are saying. But we know time and time again that they're just using us because they need us more than we need them. They need brown faces or Muslim faces to give a veneer of respectability and consensus to their genocidal policies. So it's naivety at the extreme to think that Donald Trump is going to listen to anything that Hamza Yusuf is going to say.
Yeah, it says here in another tweet, he is being used to boost Trump's image despite his stance on Israel. Hamza Yusuf should have refused. So yeah, I think mostly from my humble little tweet there, it's mostly negative, critical of the decision. But yeah, there are some supporters of his who will defend him regardless of what he does.
I think people like, honestly, I would think people like that, you know, we're in an emergency situation now, maybe in a time of peace when everything's hunky-dory, we can tolerate dissenting views to a certain extent. But our brothers and sisters are getting massacred. You know, Islam is under attack. You know, our religion is under attack. Our religious values, our bodies, our women and children, our babies are being killed. So I think at a time like this, quite frankly, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf should not be given a platform in any mainstream Muslim setting. I would go as far as that, because an example has to be made of people like that who ultimately are committing treachery.
Yeah, exactly. He should just be forgotten about and just left in his little UAE Trump camp just to get on with it and do whatever he's got to do him and we do us. But let's see how it goes. Obviously, the Palestinian issue has come up several times in this show. I guess before we end, we should discuss what's going on there. Palestinians are obviously being starved. Israel supporters are denying it and saying, no, there's loads of food in Gaza. They're doing swimmingly well. There's no genocide going on. And then the UK as well is coming under fire because even when they attempt to issue so-called action, you know, some meaningful action against Israel, it seems like that's just a complete joke and a waste of time. They cancelled talks for some new trade deal that they had lined up with
And the
Israel.
Israelis said that it was never going to go ahead anyway. They actually said that.
What a joke. And then David Lammy has the audacity to challenge pro-Gaza independent MPs in Parliament saying, well, no, I am taking real action. How dare you say otherwise, when in reality, Britain is continuing to support Israel, even though they're ratcheting up their genocide.
Arms sales are still happening on a massive scale.
A massive scale. Trade is still happening. The genocide is still happening. And there's some kind of war of words that happened when I was away. Netanyahu came under attack. And I think the UK, Canada and France have been criticising Netanyahu directly.
No, obviously the genocide is getting a little bit too explicit. You know, it's getting a little bit too uncomfortable. When it gets to the stage where babies are starving to death, even that embarrasses. I mean, these people don't have much morals, but even that is a little bit, They like, you see, the West still, whatever you say about the West, it still likes to think it has the moral high ground.
It pretends it does,
that for some reason that's still important, especially the Brits. They like to think that not only are their policies correct, but they're also morally correct. You know, and it's getting a little bit too uncomfortable, the genocide now. So they want Israel to push back or to pull back a little bit, you know, not too much, but a little bit.
Yeah.
And don't embarrass them so much, you know. So that's what it's all about. But the action that they're taking, I mean, Palestinian babies are starving to death, and they're calling in the Israeli ambassador, probably for a bit of tea and biscuits, and like, sorry about this, but you know, appearances have to be, you know, like, sorry, like, here's your Toblerone, and so we all know what's going on behind the scenes. Israel's getting on with the genocide. This Gideon's chariot thing. It's just an intensification of the genocide and expulsion. As I said at a speech I gave a few weeks ago in London, we can't really wait now for public opinion is shifting, and now we know that the majority of Brits are pro ceasefire. The majority of Brits now are anti-Israel, which wasn't the case a few years ago. But we haven't got time now, that's why we need armies to go in. We need armies literally to go in. And I'm sick and tired of indulging these Zionists, man. They shouldn't have a right to a public platform. Normally, I know we live in a secular country here where there are different communities, and we have to, unfortunately, tolerate opinions that we don't like to a certain extent, as long as it's not inciting violence, because we live in this secular country. But I think the situation is so dire in Palestine at the moment and in Gaza, where people want to, it's a genocide. Babies are starving. Why should Zionists have the right to even go on mainstream media or even social media and spout their poison? I think they should be banned. I think they should be cancelled from every single platform. We shouldn't listen to these people. They're literally beyond the pale now to even have a platform.
Yeah, I know. I mean, anyone with a conscience, anyone with a pair of eyes can see what's going on. But the British government is just completely pretending otherwise. And yeah, like you say, it's totally embarrassing to them. But I just feel like you've mentioned a good point there. Like, the initiative is there. People and public opinion has changed. Israel is totally a pariah now. And Zionism is a pariah ideology as well. I don't think anyone, middle ground or otherwise, would be convinced by their horrific, vile argument to justify what they're doing. Which is to mass murder innocent people. So maybe, why is this not being exploited enough? I mean, we've got the independents in there. I haven't seen or heard much of them that's any fiery rhetoric or whatever. It seems like they're letting us down a bit.
We need more from the independents.
I know they're criticising, they're talking about Palestine a lot. They're talking about Gaza a lot. But they just don't seem to be taking advantage of the momentum that should be there. They should be really, really creating some headlines, shaming, humiliating the government on their issues. But it seems like actually David Lammy's the one shouting down them, and it should be
I didn't see that though.
But just here and there, he's very dismissive. I've seen a few comments go on Twitter, but nothing that I would call you hit him hard there. And yeah, I mean, it seems like we're more hard hitting on this show. Than they are and they're in the place to humiliate the government, right, with their words. They're right there, face to face with these genocide enablers. So yeah, I don't know.
It's not just the Muslim MPs, Robert. It's all of us. It's those of us who don't talk about Palestine at work because we're afraid of getting sacked. It's those of us who still go on mainstream media platforms, or even just entertain Zionists at all, and are not speaking out, or that's the least we can do.
Yeah. Well,
but I think ultimately, the Muslims that can do something about this are the Muslim armies and the Muslim states like Saudi Arabia, like the UAE. They have the power because they have state power. They have armies. They have billions of pounds in budget. They could actually force Israel to stop. So actually the main shame lies on them, but it also lies on us as well. I think this is a collective failure by the Ummah.
Yeah. And because obviously Israel, they want greater Israel, right? So eventually they will try to attack Syria again. They'll probably try and attack Egypt eventually one day, or Jordan. These countries should preemptively, even from a selfish perspective, they should preemptively defend themselves against this anti-Arab, racist, apartheid, genocidal thing that exists in the Middle East. Because look, they're genociding the Palestinians because they're on the front line. Once they're done, God forbid, with the Palestinians, who are they going to look to next? They're going to want Sinai. They're going to want their Greater Israel projects. All these other countries, they should just preemptively attack Israel. Grow a conscience.
I put on my Twitter. A big no-no is comparing Israel to the Nazis. That's considered anti-Semitic by the Zionist lobby. No one objective has looked at that. Now, obviously, we know the scale of the Nazi Holocaust was much bigger, but they had 6 years to do it. Actually, they had more than that to do it, didn't they? Because it preceded World War II. Whereas in a year and a half, Israel is getting that way. They're definitely getting that way. Now, I put that on my Twitter, is it fair comparison? And Twitter is a right-wing platform. It's a right-wing platform with loads of pro-Israel people on there.
It's an echo chamber.
And an echo chamber. 80 to 90% of people, or I would say 70% of people, were saying absolutely fair. In fact, they were saying it's actually insulting to the Nazis. You know, they were going that far. You know, I didn't say that, but they said that. And this is the level of you know, reputation that Israel has now in the eyes of ordinary people. People think they're Nazis. You know, people think they're baby killers, murderers. Zionism is synonymous with racism, apartheid, baby killing, and murder. Their reputation is in the absolute dustbin, and they know that.
I find it crazy how, like, we're not allowed to talk about the Nazis now, and we're the country that, like, helped to beat Nazis, you know what I mean? And I think it's just this war on free speech that Zionism represents. I don't know. It's another topic for another day, I guess. But I just think it's insane.
Well, it's interesting. Cage came out with a report this morning. I'm not sure whether you read it, but I have. And it fingers two pro-Zionist groups campaign against anti-Semitism and UK Lawyers for Israel, and accuses them of trying to shut down legitimate free speech in this country. And to basically put an end to pro-Palestine activism.
I mean,
through lawfare.
Because there's a famous quote, if you want to know who's in charge, look at the people you can't criticize, right? Well, we're not allowed to talk about the Nazis. It's like, did the Nazis win World War II? And I just didn't know about it. Do you know what I mean? That's how it feels. Because, like, you talk about, you can't make comparisons.
Israel should have been created in Germany or in Europe somewhere, because they're the ones that killed the Jews, right? It wasn't the Palestinians. So I don't have any issue with a Jewish state, but not at the expense of the Palestinians.
It
should be in Europe. It should be in Germany. Germany, even now, they should. You know, there's big mountains in Bavaria. Do you know what I mean? And you know, they have some Lebensraum. That's what they called it, the Nazis, right? They have it in Germany itself. Germany owes the debt to the Jews, not the Palestinians.
Exactly. The Palestinians didn't burn them in ovens. It was the Europeans.
We're on memory, aren't we? That bit's on memory. Gonna make memory.
It wasn't the Palestinians that did the genociding, but they're the ones being genocided. So it's pretty insane. Well, I think we've reached the end of this show. I think, 2 weeks off, but we've given you plenty of content to catch up on. So
hopefully,
there you go, brothers and sisters. Please do leave your comments in the comment section below. We do read them and react to them occasionally, and like the ones that support us. We're biased in that sense.
See you in 6 months, brothers and sisters.
Maybe in a year's time. Well, there you go, brothers and sisters. But yeah, please do like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel immensely. And leave your comments in the comment section below, and do share this show around. It helps the channel immensely. Because if you like the show, then help the channel grow. That's what I always say. But until next time, brothers and sisters, it's Assalamu alaikum from us. Take care. Ma salama for now.